Hello and welcome to the only shit. Fuck. Woo.
Got it.
Sorry.
Got it.
I spilled my tea. Woo. Okay. Yeah, that's why you don't drink hot tea. God damn, right below my knee. I am sorry. We can just leave all this in, I guess. And the listener at home will understand my. No, they'll know all about my scratchy throat and my shin hot tea. Bing. I'm Luke.
I'm Max.
I'm mad.
And this is Force for Thought.
Excellent work, gentlemen.
Oh my god! That was 10. Did you say you were drinking hot tea for? You actually have a scratchy throat, or was that just set up for a joke?
I actually have a scratchy throat, but I've been waiting to use this joke for Andor because I think it's hilarious, and I figured this one will get a lot of views.
Wow, that was 10 out of, I don't know how we're gonna top this. Honestly, the rest of the episode, that was great, Luke. I thought you were joking, and then it was like, this is part of the bit. It's clearly not part of the bit. Oh man,
no, it was all a bit. This cup was empty the whole time. I was taking dummy sips while we were chatting pre-recording.
That's insane. That is crazy. You know I love inceptioning somebody for a joke that'll pay off a half hour later, and so this insane props to you, Luke. And
thank you.
You might be the master at it now.
Now I am actually going to drink a Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar, of course.
There it is. That makes
why would you drink anything else?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
that's the Luke we all know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, hello and welcome back. Sagrona Tima Salam, or as Matt likes to say, Shalom. Andor seasons 2, episodes 1 through 3 have dropped, and wow, we have so much to talk about. We'll give it our obligatory rankings out of 10, but it's not even questionable to me. This is such a 10 out of 10. We already got 2 notable deaths, so spoilers ahead. Listen at your own peril. But I call them notable. I spent exactly 0 seconds thinking about these characters since season 1 ended, and within 3 episodes, I'm completely devastated. Of course, I am talking
false.
about... You what?
You talk about Brazos all the time. You talk about he's the big guy on his podcast.
That's what I was about to say. I'm talking about the big man, Brasso, who I know Luke thinks about quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Tay Kolma. Brasso I knew was going to be in the show. We see him in the trailers, and I figured that, he was involved in the uprising on Ferrix. Now he has to move and lay low, but I wouldn't have considered him a rebel, and I still don't really think he was a rebel, but it doesn't matter. Nobody is safe, and it now has me wondering who else I didn't even think about that isn't safe. Least of all is Tay Kolma. Now, technically, we didn't see him die, but the thing that the show does so well is subtext. We've talked about this before. I 100% believe he's already dead, and I don't even think it's up for interpretation, but I am curious what you guys think if you disagree. I described on an earlier episode of this show, Mon Mothma being the heart of the rebellion and Luthen being the brain. And this is the inner conflict that we see within Tay. His heart is in the right place. He knows the Empire is wrong and he wants to help, but his head is saying, wait a minute, my personal business is taking a dive. My personal life is being ruined. I'm carrying all this risk, and I don't think my end of the bargain was adequately recognized. Now he's having doubts and may start talking, but Mon is confident she can figure it out. They will reach a number, and everyone will be happy. But Luthen, the ever-pragmatic and logical rebel, realizes what needs to be done. And one of the greatest moments of dialogue in Star Wars happens when Mon tells Luthen they are confident they can find a number. Luthen replies, "You already know the number. We'd be vulnerable forever. You need to be protected." To which Mon, in an attempt to convince herself, says, "I don't know what you're saying." And Luthen simply replies, "How nice for you." I paused for a moment.
I think about that moment. Yes.
It was so good. I loved it so much. And then it was like a cherry on top. Then we get to see Cinta again, another character who I wasn't expecting to see. But then she pops up.
Of course, that's where she pops up. That makes so much sense.
It does. She pops up. She takes Tay, and Tay even asks her, like, "Oh, where's my driver?" And Cinta's just like, "Oh, I don't know. I had to fill in or whatever." And they fly away, and now my heart hurts. Nothing is explicitly stated. Nothing is shown, but using only good writing, has made this one of the most impactful deaths, implied or otherwise, in Star Wars, in my opinion. It also now has me wondering about Cinta's role in the rebellion, because she was the one that Luthen had tracked down Cassian to kill him after he went rogue in season 1. So she's definitely a rebel, but she's not just a rebel. She is like a certified hit woman. She is Luthen's go-to for disappearing people. And that
she was the medic in Aldani. Like that, she's not the medic. She's a wet work specialist.
Yes, she is. She is his go-to guy for disappearing people. If you want someone never seen or heard from again, Cinta's apparently the person that you go to. And we talk all the time.
What the perfect way to address, because we it wasn't like a lingering question, I wouldn't say, but we talked about it when we were discussing Andor season 1. If Cinta did kill the Commandant and his family, and like imagine if Tony Gilroy was in the room and we were like, "Are you ever going to address that?" And he's like, "No, I'm never going to address that, but I will make it very clear what she did."
Yes.
This
is masterful storytelling to accomplish that.
There's also a great moment where he says, "I'm not going to waste any more of your spirits." I feel like that's a great way to imply that he's also a bit tipsy, and obviously, if he was any sort of, he's not going to question, I don't think, Mon Mothma and the fact that they've been friends for so long. But I think that even if he was to have any sort of question, like he just got into a car with somebody, knowing basically, it seems like, and just kind of putting all of his hand out there of what he's been doing, what he implies to do. And I feel like that is, I just imply that the fact that he has a couple of drinks too, like they covered all their bases. And Max, I had that same exact thought, was like that dialogue really stuck out to me too. Just the fact this is how nice for you is just like, I don't even know that. I feel like that just implies so much, and it's just like oh man, it's just
there's so much meaning in that, and you can unpack that in a number of different ways, because there's like a little bit of like bitterness, I feel like, between Mon and Luthen too, because Luthen, like I said, he's the head and Mon's the heart. Luthen knows what needs to be done. Mon also does know deep down, but her heart is saying otherwise. She doesn't want it to be true, and Luthen is just like, well, that must be nice for you. It must be nice to have this luxury of thinking that everything will always work out for the better, when he knows that's not the case. It goes back to his whole monologue in season 1 when he talks about how he's what's the line? He's damned. He's cursed to the future that he's created for himself, or whatever, when he's talking to Lonnie. Whatever it is, but I mean, he is a deeply tragic character, and he knows that is the important takeaway from that monologue. And I feel like this is kind of bringing that up again. Like, Luthen knows that he is damned for what he does. He's giving Mon this luxury of being able to not think about it, basically.
He's had to clearly deal with this type of this thing before, and I think Mon's been able to be in the rebellion at an arm's length, but now all of a sudden it's become very, very real for her, where one of her oldest friends is now on the line to basically disappear. Her daughter's getting married off. All of these things, I think, are happening kind of in one go, and I think it's interesting to see, which is obviously where, I can't even believe that we're jumping to the deaths kind of, and going into the very ending of episode 3
It's the elephant in the room,
far.
in my opinion. I wouldn't be able to talk about anything else. I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk about the relationship between Cyril and Dedra before jumping to Tay and Brasso. So I had
honestly,
to get there first.
I could talk about Dedra and Cyril the entire time. I think Dedra
will.
might
Don't
be
worry.
my favorite character now. I love Dedra so much.
This arc did
I mean,
a good number for him.
And then beyond that too, I'm just like, I want a spin-off of just Dedra and Cyril. I want everything to work out for them now. And there's so much to go into that as well. But I mean, obviously, there's a million other things to. I mean, Andor, which I think is so. I mean, really quick top view, and we can kind of go back to the deaths, to be honest, and stuff too. But I feel like it's so hard to talk about one thing without the other. I feel like, I mean, that's just kind of the basis of the podcast a little bit, for maybe how we operate or how I operate. But
it also goes to how well written the show is, that it's all connected.
It
obviously.
is. And I'm sure people are going to talk about the pacing and blah, 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 blah. There is a bit of an editing thing I had, and this is not what I was going to say, but I was like, it's weird that like how much the dialogue with Krennic, for example, has got to be like a 12-page scene. And they break it up, and it's like, it's weird that they break it up consistently. And you're like, I wonder if that was like, and they didn't have it, and then they just started slotting things in there, and breaking that huge dialogue scene up. And then the way episode 3 ends is one of the best editing decisions, I think, in Star Wars of all time, because the music cuts out before it really ends, and then the scene when Mon Mothma is dancing, and just the cut that they end on is so it's almost like anti of what you should do. You should let it play out for one more beat or so, and it doesn't. It just cuts it, and I think almost that cutting it short. You could see that as it being cut short is the death is happening in that moment when she is dancing. So she is almost like Heisenberg, where all these people are getting murdered and he's looking out. I can't believe I'm saying Heisenberg and not The Godfather, but I feel like that is more relevant to people, and that is just a ripoff of The Godfather. But either way, I feel like you can almost see that in the moment that moment when it's cut short is when he dies.
Yeah, they're doing such a good job of invoking the emotion, right? Because you're right. When it ends, it's unsettling. And that is like the feeling that they want the audience stuck with. It's just this feeling of like, oh, I feel icky now. Because you're right. Mon Mothma is forced to dance the night away as all of this shit is falling around her. She just sentenced her best friend to death. She just gave away her daughter in a marriage for political purposes. I guess she doesn't know about Brasso, but Brasso is dying on the other end of the galaxy and everything, and like everything is going to hell, and she's just like, she's doing what she
doesn't know Brasso.
No, I said she doesn't know that Brasso's dying or anything like that, but I'm just saying that was also happening at the same time.
Other aspect of like rebellion is happening as she's having, and that's the thing too, is that she's able to live this luxury life, and this might be a very obvious thing, but something that like really made my jaw drop a little bit is, Luke, we talk about costuming all the time, and I love the idea, and obviously there's so much to go into with the costuming in the show, and let me just say before we even get any further episodes that we have to almost do an episode per a podcast per episode of the show because of how great everything is. It's so hard to wrap up 3 episodes, so this is just kind of us spitballing a little bit, but I love the idea of how elegant and intricate all of her dresses and outfits are. And then when we see her, we're introduced to Mon, and her go-to outfit, and I'm sorry if we talked about this before, is just a plain white robe. And I feel like that is so telling and so great to purposely put her in these very, very extravagant outfits during Andor. And we know that she not falls from grace, obviously, but she goes into hiding, she gets caught, whatever, right? She becomes a rebel, and presumably is found out. And I think retracting into this very plain white robe is such a great way to go about that for like Tony Gilroy's sake and anybody else on Andor. I mean, they did a little bit of this in like the Clone Wars and stuff too, but the fact that like you can look at her and be like, okay, she's in plain white. Let's make her the most extravagant person you can possibly think of, because this is where she ends up, is a blank slate, and it's almost on purpose. Anyway, I thought about her costuming quite a bit.
I did as well,
and more or less though about where we end up though.
So Matt, I'm taking from what you're saying that you also really liked it. What do you give it on a scale of 9 to 10? And there is only one acceptable answer.
Yeah, no, it is a 10. And what I was going to say as well is just the fact that Andor is the least talked about character, I think, in all of this. And I think that's done super well and intentionally because
he's barely in it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But I also think that people are going to complain about the pacing issues and stuff, or pacing, not that they're issues, but they're going to say it has issues. But this is a 12 or 24 part story broken up, right? And so we have 24 episodes total. It starts saying 1 year later, and it's meant to, you finish episode 12 of season 1 and you start episode 1 of season 2. And so you just roll into it. So like right now it's like, oh yeah, this is like a weird first episode of a season, but it's like, no, this is not how it's supposed to be viewed. It is going to be a 24 piece episode show, and that is, you're going to watch it in one, you're supposed to, not like in one go, but watch it in chronological order. Like it doesn't matter what years it comes out in 10 years from now. What matters is you watch Andor and you see this complete story. And for that, I think it's amazing because Andor he just had this amazing arc and ending in episode 12 of season 1. So now it's focused on the other characters. When you watch it as a full story, it's not top heavy for Andor. You ease back into him, and he's like the least important character in these first 3 episodes, and obviously that'll change, but I am so happy that he is the least important because you're getting this amazing dialogue for Luthen, which I can do a full episode about how Luthen is so flamboyant and so over the top as, himself, and then he goes so gravelly when he's like rebellion version of himself.
It's so good though.
It's so
quickly am I allowed to start online petitions for Stellan Skarsgård to get an Emmy nomination. I mean, am I jumping the gun on that,
yeah.
or can I start?
No, I don't think
the
so.
campaign?
It already won some stuff for, he was nominated. It won some stuff for the Emmys when the first season came out. So I don't know. I feel like this the shots. And one last thing too. Sorry, I can go in a million directions right now, and I'm gonna stop monologuing. So Max, you can get back to monologuing. Luke said 3 words so far.
He may or may not have a scratchy throat, so that's fine.
And he does not have any tea left. This show, I think, is so good because it takes the time, and this is something that only Andor does. No other Star Wars shows do. Not many shows do anymore. But you sit within these scenes and these settings, and I'm sure this is an ultra expensive show, but it deserves every single cent it is put into the show, because one of my favorite scenes is when we enter that hut where Bix and Brasso are staying, and it's not a hut, it's like a tent, right? Like a mobile home almost. And you just you enter it, and then it pans around. Sure, it ends up being revealed it's a dream, and that's a POV shot from the guy who interrogated Bix. But the fact that you sat in that setting, and to me, that is what great sci-fi does. It shows you where all this action is taking place. And this is no dig towards The Mandalorian, but The Mandalorian doesn't do that at all. The Mandalorian is straight action. It's what's going on with these characters. It doesn't really matter the setting, right? Sometimes. Like when we saw Jabba's palace in the hangar, we all freaked out about that. But the directors, right, Filoni, nobody ever paid attention to that setting. We just got big shots of it, and that's it. So we get to kind of theorize what it looks like. Tony Gilroy and the directors want you to know every inch of this. It is a livable, breathable space that I can still picture in my head. And even though I watched the episodes yesterday, what it looks like, and this is what Alien does. This is what Star Wars does originally. It's like you sit in these settings, and it's so great. I mean, you see the picture of Marva. All of these things stick out to you, and you see how you live. So when you go to bed at night and you lay your head on your pillow, you're thinking of yourself in those settings. You're like, if I was here, this is where I would do this. Maybe it's just me who still thinks like a child, but I'm like, you get to live within these settings, and I absolutely love the show for that. I know what Dedra's apartment's like. When you're waiting for her mom to come around the corner, it is so anxiety-inducing for some reason, because you know she's going to come around the corner. But it's like, just every inch of this show is beautiful looking. Or when Mon Moth was walking through the party, you know she sees somebody and it's a Luthen, doesn't even matter who it is. It's beautiful because you get to see her walk through and see these creatures and these people and these costumes and these sets. Okay, I'm done monologuing. That took longer than I wanted to, but
I'm so glad that you said all that, though.
We've all been thinking about
it. I agree that the sets are really nice. I want to be careful not to throw any strays at Book of Boba Fett, because to be fair, that we did get like a full episode going all the way through Jabba's palace, and you see like the hangar and the kitchen and the throne room.
That wasn't a stray. That was a
walk
compliment.
Through every part
we loved
of it.
That about the Book of Boba Fett.
I know. I was just worried it came across the opposite, but Andor does do it really well. I also really appreciate how it's not just like a wide shot and then the interior. Like also the staging, like the direction of the action goes like inside and outside. Like Bix and the second Imperial guy have that scene like on the doorway. Like you can tell you can go all the way in and all the way out, and that's one fluid set.
Yeah.
And it is better for it in a couple ways.
And Matt, exactly what you were saying about spending time in these places and like getting to know them, I think is a key aspect to making something feel grounded. And that is what this show does so well, is it grounds you to the point that a couple stormtroopers and one Imperial lieutenant terrify you. In any other Star Wars project, that is absolutely nothing, you know? But because we're spending time and this show is making it feel like so grounded, like we're actually there, we are terrified of what's to come, even though, you know, it seems like it's relatively low stakes, but it's not. The stakes feel incredibly high, and they can do that with so little just by, well, a lot of things. The writing, but also, like you said, the set design and spending time in the environment and everything like that. It's so good. Yeah, we'll talk more about it. Luke, I want to hear more from you, though. Out of 10.
10, easy 10.
There's
I'll
consensus.
get right into Brasso because we talked about Tacoma a lot, and Brasso
Almost too much in comparison to Brasso.
Not too much, definitely too much in comparison to Brasso.
Yeah.
Brasso's death was unceremonious, and I'm still having a hard time accepting that he is really dead. But given like the structure and tone and format of the show, I do believe he's dead. I do think he'll have a larger part, so to speak.
Through his heart as well. I mean, like,
Did he? I didn't.
He's
I don't
laying when he's
remember
laying on
We
the
saw it on
ground.
the
It's on the
back.
left side.
Was it on the
Yeah,
other side?
which is on the left
too?
side, and he's laying down. So I'd say he's pretty fucked.
And if
I
he
mean,
isn't
I believe he's dead.
They at least left him behind.
Yeah,
But similar to Marva, who also died unceremoniously, I think Brasso will have a more essential, like, he's not going to have a literal ceremony like Marva, or at least I don't think so. But they do have to go back and get B2 Emo from his girlfriend Talia. And so I think when that happens, it'll be like, oh, Brasso said this and that, and I'm like Brasso somehow. And so I do think that Brasso's going to be like a bigger part of the story, even if he's not in it because he's dead. But he had also one of the coolest moments, which again, so in line with his character, because when we talked about the characters of Andor season 1, I talked about how Brasso was just such a homie, and Andor showed up and was like, hey, you and I were together last night, no matter who asks. When the stormtroopers get him, and he starts yelling at Kellen, and he's like, you bastard, you just work us bloody and then turn us in, so that Kellen gets away with it. And I was like, yes, Brasso, that is genius, good job. And then yeah, and he took the speeder to go find a frickin' Will, who was out with his girlfriend. That was such a bummer that's the reason this all went wrong. Will, I don't dislike Will, but I definitely like him the least of all of most of the characters. And that didn't do any favors for him. But the idea of just killing off Brasso so quickly and unimportantly, it's a good idea, and it gives me pause for the rest of the characters, because I am expecting a very grandiose departure for Luthen's character, and he might just get stabbed one day. Like, it could be very nothing.
Yeah.
And it'll nothing's off the table. I wish Bix was killed instead, because I'm so sad that she has to keep living. Her life is just awful. Like, when she had that nightmare scene when Dr. Gorsh, I want to say is his name, but don't quote me on that. When we see him, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe he's here. This is so creepy. And then he came in, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a dream. But then the dream didn't end at the time when you, like, figure out it's a dream. And then he kept pulling on her sheets, and I'm like, no, this is just as bad, even if it's a dream. Like, once the audience figures out it's a dream, the scene needs to end. And if it doesn't end, it might as well not be a dream, because this is still terrifying. And then, obviously, the near rape scene was unpleasant. I got our face, I guess, for hoping for another sex scene in Andor season 2. Not like this. It's like almost the show is too adult for me, a 28-year-old male, and the show is like, I'm not old enough for this. Like, I was so excited to see Mon dancing, and I'm like, not like this though. This is unpleasant. and same with same with the sex scene. I don't want sex in Star Wars. No, make this for children again. I am not strong enough for this.
Now, don't push me on this. I don't know why, but hearing the word rape when she shouted, he tried to rape me, stood out to me more than the scene where he actually tries to rape her. I don't know why. Like, as soon as I heard that, I immediately thought, wow, can they say that in Star Wars? But then I was like, well, they just showed it, so I'm pretty... I guess that's okay,
weird, but... Like, for us who's consuming media, we're used to seeing things and having that implied context, but then also to, like, put the name, I think, to the act, and then also within Star Wars was like, whoa, it was weirdly shocking. And then you linger in that moment, and also, man, that blaster fight was awesome. I was like, fuck yeah, when Bix shoots the guy from the side, I was like, yeah, well, that guy's an idiot. He didn't even consider. I was like, what a another thing about this show, not to get off track too far from Max, your structure or anything, but I love the idea, I think, of stupidity within the show so far, and people not paying attention to the correct things, or you're in the middle of a war, you're in the middle of a scenario, and people are bickering versus actually trying to problem solve. And that is like that guard, people are firing at him, he just turns his back to Bix. Is it because she's a woman? I don't know, like, what the guy's thoughts are, like, if that's why he does that, or, like, I mean, you'd think you'd run back to your vehicle or somewhere, but instead he just
pull out
fires
your
back
gun.
and he hides and he gets shot. And
He
it's
was,
like
about
dumb.
to. I got the impression that he was also very well concussed after she landed a couple of those blows on his head.
Oh no, not the general, the other guy who comes once he falls.
Oh, the guy that was just I guess he was the driver or whatever of that.
Yeah, the driver.
Yeah.
There's a blaster shootout and he's the one who gets got by Bix because she shoots him. And it's like that again, stupidity and the fact that he's not paying attention to what he should. And then I think that is also the basis for that gang, which runs through episodes 1 and 2, is the fact that they just are dicking around with each other where Andor is on a different playing field. He's playing the long game, and it's because these guys are basically like high school jocks still fighting with each other, and they're paying attention to nothing. They think it's thunder, but it's actually these beasts. They know the beasts are there. It's just dark and they forgot about it. Like
So
the idea of stupidity throughout that is, I think, is golden. And I think for me, like those characters are annoying, but to see Andor interact with them and having them be the opposite of Andor is fantastic. And then also seeing Andor shoot the guy within the TIE fighter is great because I think that is, Andor was not going to kill earlier in that episode, and then he kills when he has to, and I that's the perfect basis for him. And so I think it goes back into Rogue One where he knows he kills when he has to, and there's going to be some sort of reason why he does that. Obviously, going forward, where he either makes a mistake and doesn't kill somebody he should. Maybe it's Luthen, and then that bites him later on, or maybe he learns his lesson. But just like that, the aspect of those characters were so annoying, and I hated them so much watching them. But I loved what it was doing for Andor as the character and seeing him concoct this plan in his head.
Well, and the bigger message that I think it was telling within the arc as well, because it was also another microcosm of just the logistical improbability of successfully navigating a rebellion. Because by definition, all your troops are rebels, and apparently they lost their chain of command and immediately started infighting, immediately started turning on each other, and yeah, that's another problem. And from the lows of these, infantry soldiers to the highs of the upper command with Luthen and Mon and Tay, there's just problems everywhere, and it is just very, very difficult to keep this stuff straight. That was a big part of Cassian's story arc, obviously, because that was like all that he did in episode 2. And I do kind of want to go through a little bit and talk about all the characters and their stories, starting with Cassian, obviously. I loved that we just jumped right into this heist of him stealing the ship. We talked about it a couple episodes ago because I was like, oh, we've kind of seen this already, so it'll be interesting to see how they differentiate it. I'm glad that they didn't even try. They just jumped right into it. They didn't even provide us any sort of context or anything. They just said, nope, he's here. He's stealing the ship right away.
Amazing.
You know what's happening. Within the first 5 minutes,
too.
he's already trying to fly this thing, and all the difficulty that presents was both comical but also like really well done and everything. So I loved that. And I guess
also some of the best dialogue, I think,
with the
when he's talking to
the girl who was helping him.
I think I think they described Star Wars and the Rebellion, I think, the best that it's ever been described, when he was like, what you're doing now, like you basically joined the Rebellion years ago. Like this seed and implanted in you is now finally coming to fruition. And it's like, God, that scene was amazing dialogue wise, and then to counteract that with like a weirdly funny moment. And this show has some levity within the first the first 2 episodes has some funny moments and some levity, which is welcome. But also like his test pilot uniform is awesome. I was like, let's start off with that and how great the setting was. I think too, like it looks so grandiose. It looks so big. It looks so sleek. It looks like everything you've known, but also something we haven't fully seen before. Again, mixed with some amazing dialogue.
Action figures from Andor, and I think all of them have been from the first episode, because one of them was that range trooper who has that rocket launcher that tries to shoot him down. Cassian in the test pilot outfit. And I thought there was one more, but I don't know. I agree with you.
Also, the tie. The last thing before I forget, because I'm going to forget, is when he's, and this is through the 3 episodes, or was when in the TIE fighter, his locking system just looks like the video game. Like I feel like more than it ever has before. And it was like, oh my God, it's like, yes, that's usually it's like video games are so removed from the IP, but it's like, no, this is what it looks like.
That's a good example of just such unrealistic technology that for some reason I feel like my brain can comprehend. because it's like that technology is not real. But then when I see that, I'm just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I get what's going on here. I agree with
that gag when he starts flying the TIE fighter and he like goes backwards. That's a very common gag in all kinds of movies and shows. But to make it relevant to the plot, like this is not the ship that he was trained to fly. It is a very difficult ship to fly because the rebels on Yavin weren't able to do it either, and they could never figure it out, or the one pilot could never figure it out. Like a lesser version of the show, that would have just been a funny moment. They'd be like, oh, okay, it's this way. But that is the plot, that you can't fly it.
And I think,
and also so inconvenient. Like Jesus Christ, that's the most inconvenient way to fly something. And I was like, why would they ever make it like that? And I was like, oh yeah, so this exact scenario doesn't happen. You make it so intensely complicated to fly that's not just a steering wheel. It's like, yeah, why wouldn't the Empire do that? They would clearly build something that they would only know. I was like, that's so smart. Like, it's like, yeah.
User friendly is the opposite of the goal when you're designing specific weapons like that.
Even the chair, he was like trying to pick the chair up from the back. I was
he didn't know where to sit.
Again, talking about living in these scenarios, what other show does that ever? It's like, oh, what if we actually, like, again, I don't know if Tony Gilroy, right? Like, not a huge fan of Star Wars, but it's like, is he really a big fan of Star Wars? Or like, is he like the intricacies of Star Wars? It's like, well, I don't like this IP, but it's like, who thinks of that? You know what I mean? Like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau aren't like, well, what if Mandalorian gets in and he doesn't know how to figure out a seat? Like, that sounds dumb, right? But it's like somehow they pull it off in Andor, and it's because of this world building, I think, scenario they set up left and right. It's like, yeah, let's again. I texted you guys this. I could talk about the word webbery for a full day, and how they use these spiders to make things. I'm like, I could talk like just like those intricacies. Go on. I have a lot of things to talk about how tactile this show is too, and how 1950s inspired these 3 episodes are as well. Like, you know, those communication boards for the comms, like diving into that, and then showing this 1950s Fallout style video from Krennic, which is like so crazy. It's like they really outdid themselves with the intricacies with this. Anyway.
I was just gonna go back to when we were talking about the girl that was helping him at the very beginning, because that dialogue was really good when she was asking him about is it worth it, and being in a rebellion's dangerous, and I feel like these 3 episodes really showed that, and he did not tell her otherwise. He did not say, "Oh, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I'll meet you tomorrow or whatever. You know, you'll be fine." He just said, "You'll be coming home to yourself." You know, so it's like, yeah, you might not make it through the night, but you'll at least be able to live with yourself for however long you have left at this point. I don't know. I really like that, and I don't know if we're ever going to see that girl again, and if she did ever make it, but my mind
I don't
is
think
wondering.
we will.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we will either.
I think the same thing with, that's what the show does so well, is that these characters come in and out. We're never going to see that gang again, presumably. I don't think we're ever going to see Kino Loy again.
I would say we're not going to see that gang again, except for that twist at the end when he gets away and you find out that they were on Yavin the whole time. I was like,
that is nuts.
I didn't know what to think of that because I was like, oh, they're on Yavin. And then I was like, wait, what does that mean? They were on Yavin that whole time?
That blew my socks off. If you know me, that is the highest form of praise I give media, when something blows my socks off. That was on par with The Last Jedi, the Luke being not really there and floating behind. I freaked out when I saw that. That absolutely not blew me away. When just the visual storytelling, for one, it's cool that, like, you know, they're on Yavin just by the look of it because that's so iconic. But also, I was so patiently waiting because I trust the show, which is also a benefit that I give this show that I wouldn't give most shows, that I'd be like, damn near fast forwarding through these scenes, because I did not care for those scenes with the whatever bad rebels, the rebels that are bad at being rebels. And I was just so excited for it to be over, and I was like, how is this going to come back into play? Andor is just going to leave, and it's going to be nothing. And then you see it's Yavin, and like everything just clicked together. Like, oh my god, they're going to come back to Yavin. They're going to be part of the rebellion. They're going to have to figure out how to actually be rebellion. Luthen or Mon Mothma or Saw Gerrera are going to whip them into shape, and they're going to be either the most vicious and effective rebels or the least effective and just cannon fodder, and it's just going to be a little bit more emotional when we see them get unceremoniously slaughtered in the name of a low stakes skirmish. And I cannot sing enough praises. Like, episode 2 of season 2 of Andor will be highly rated in my mind for all time. That absolutely blew me away.
There is a chance that we
Love
don't
it.
see them again, though, and that by the time we do go back to Yavin, because we know we are going back to Yavin, they might already be dead. Because I believe this has been confirmed that every 3-episode arc is a 1-year time jump. So if the next time we go back is in a year, I don't think those guys are making it a year. I mean, how long did we see them for? 2 days, and they were not really holding it together well.
Yeah.
So I don't have great confidence that they'd be able to get it together for a year. But I really like that arc, actually, and talking about being grounded and just like being on the edge of your seat when they just started to try to turn the TIE fighter in the direction of the crashed ship to shoot them. I was like, oh my God. Like, that was actually terrifying me, because I was like, what are they going to do? They can't run over there and they can't leave. Like, they're just fish in a barrel, and they're just like taunting them because they're like, oh, it's going to take them until midnight if we're lucky. And I'm like, oh, what's the plan, guys?
That's coming up.
I really like
I thought they were going to snap a wing off and break the tie. I was worried watching them do that.
Yes. But I really like
I do think
that.
we're going to see that farmer who traded on Brasso, though.
He did not trade on Brasso.
You don't think so?
No, they were best friends. Kellen? They were best friends, and he was so nice to him the whole time, and Brasso just acted like he was a traitor so that Kellen would be chill with the Empire after Brasso is dead or gone. Dead.
That's weird. That's not how I read that scene. It seems like...
Oh, that's absolutely how that scene reads. Max,
Because
what do you think?
That was
'cause
kind
I
of
feel
how
like
I read
either-
it, yeah.
Interesting.
Which
'cause
one?
I feel like...
Years that he was trying to provide him cover for hosting.
Yeah.
the
Interesting.
or whatever.
Because I also felt like, what's the point of that? I mean, he sold them out then. He's still willing to...
He didn't sell them out.
I know, but I'm saying, like, even if Brasso said that, like, they know that they didn't sell him
the
out.
Empire knows that he didn't. Well,
Yeah.
it gives
What's
plausible
then what's
deniability that, like, he's not my friend. I was not harboring a fugitive, and I think...
But he was like, you use us for work and then you throw us out. So he was using him for work. And
Yeah, but the Empire's all for that. They have no problem with that. And then throw him out and feed him to the Empire or whatever.
I don't know. I also
Turn
find
him
that
in.
more interesting as well. So when they go back for B2, they also will go back and his love interest, basically,
Alia.
her parents sold them out. I think is more interesting potentially. I guess we made that. I do think we're going to see more of that storyline potentially, even though I don't think any of us really fully care about that love story. But it could be interesting if he did sell them out.
I'm not that
did
interested
say-
in...
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not that interested in Will and his honey, but
No.
I am interested in going back there to get B2 EMO, because he's there.
And Brasso Revenge.
Yeah, well, there will be something, but we need B2 EMO.
He did say something about you betrayed us or something like that, which I think, to Matt's point, doesn't make sense for Brasso to say, because if he didn't actually betray them and he's just trying to provide cover for this guy by getting mad at him, he shouldn't have said that you betrayed us, because then it also tells the Imperials, oh, so you did know that they were illegal.
Yeah, correct. Because he said you use us for work and then you spit us out, which is exactly what he did. Versus,
I'm gonna have to
'cause
rewatch
then-
that scene now. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, you're not. This is silly. I am so unbelievably confident that that Kellen, like, there were 4 or 5 establishing scenes talking about how good of a person Kellen is when he kept getting intel on where the Empire was and how he can help, and he doctored that one form so that they could go do night work on the other station.
That's our curse.
I think that's the thing too,
No.
Luke, is I think when push comes
That's
to
what
shove, I think
said.
he's pushing. I think he's putting his family first. Because again, it makes no sense that Brasso would cover for this guy, because that would if anything make the guy worse off. To be like, oh, so you did know all these people were here. Like, if they could have just found out that Brasso was illegal and he was working for them, it'd be like, oh, these people were illegal. But now Brasso is basically implicating him that he knew the entire time and he was harvesting these people. Like, that, to me,
that gets him good with the Empire. That is a textbook Empire play. But
that's why they're there,
is going to look fondly on Kellen now that he assumedly did this to Brasso. Because they know that there's illegals there. They just don't want the management to be aiding and abetting them. They want the management to sell them out if they want them to sell them out one day, which he now
There's
thinks he
also a
did.
couple looks where I think I don't know. That's so funny. I did not read it like that at all.
I mean, there was arguably a silly amount of times when they established how nice Kellen is to Brasso and Bix and Will.
That's true, but I don't know. I don't see how they. I mean, even the wife. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was the wife.
Talia, his girlfriend.
She was very, very strict with her. When she was like, "Get in," and everything too. Like, no, the wife.
Yeah, when the stormtroopers were there about to either take or kill people, like that's
what I'm saying. I think when it's
authority figure,
when it's push
was that her daughter?
Shove, I think so. But when push comes to shove, I think this was showing that people crack personally, and especially the look between Brasso.
I disagree in the strongest possible form.
This
was a utopia. This was the end game, and it's showing that you can never escape because the Empire's always coming for you. You can't just not look up and pretend the Empire doesn't exist. They will always show up and always ruin everything.
I don't want to talk about it more until I rewatch it anyway. So we'll revisit this next week after we get a fresh watch.
Because it's insane. It's insane.
We'll push forward. We push forward.
You were right, Max. So there's no purpose of the dialogue. But I agree. I want to talk about something else.
We got to give the people what they came for, and that is the Cyril and Dedra content. So, Luke, I think you probably have the most strong opinions about this, so I will turn it over to you if you have anything you would like to say.
Every single moment containing Cyril, or not every moment with Dedra, because there was a lot with Krennic, which was good, but not the best, like every part with Cyril was. It was so... The fact that they're together was surprising to me. I didn't know what their relationship was going to be.
Yes.
But it makes sense. I'm not opposed to it. And I love that Cyril has risen the ranks in his Bureau of Standards job. And he had that sick line that there's a future here for those who are brave, or for those who dare to take it, which is similar, if not the exact same line that someone else says in season 1. Probably under a completely different context, and I can't wait to go find that one because it sounded so familiar. But that was awesome. And then he's with Dedra, which is great, and his mother comes. We get another one of those fascinatingly tense scenes where every piece of dialogue is just so masterfully crafted between... Mostly, I'm thinking of his mom right now, because Cyril mostly like emotes and looks down and stuff. And oh my god, the scene where he's laying in bed was such a mood.
Yes.
Like I'm just gonna send that GIF to people sometimes when they call me. I'm just gonna send that, like, you don't need any words to be spoken. I know exactly how this man feels. And then when Dedra sets everything straight with Edie, and we find out Uncle Harlow is a criminal, which we maybe possibly suspected. And I was also thinking this, because so much stuff in this first 3 episodes makes so much sense, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course that happens. I basically knew that was going to happen. But we talked about season 1 and our theories for season 2 a lot, and so I don't have that benefit anymore to say, oh well, I knew that was going to happen, because I damn sure would have said it on this podcast if I did. And so the 3 of us can't do that anymore. But so much stuff, like when Dedra gets in charge of the Gorman project, like, oh, of course, that has to happen for the plot to progress. That makes so much sense. But I never would have imagined that she would be in charge. And she was personally picked by Krennic. And, well, we can get to all that. The Cyril stuff. He has not made the jump to either villain or hero yet. That I think he will, one way or the other, by the end of the series. I think he's going to make the jump to hero. Do you guys think he's going to make the jump to villain? Or you guys think he's already there? But we don't have to relitigate that either. He's still kind of in limbo. And they're setting up his character so perfectly, because now he has more power and he's like at equal station. I mean, not professionally with Dedra, but they're in a relationship. And so I think he is either going to like betray her or join the rebellion, and it's going to be obviously a rift between the two of them, and they're setting up so much interesting stuff for that. But that's theories for the future, which I'm really excited to hear your guys's. But just what we got, that scene at dinner with his mom was perfect.
Cherry on top. Like I said, Dedra is my favorite character in the show now. I liked her in season 1 because she was intriguing, but I was like, god damn, like the fact of her like not faking a smile, but like faking a smile when she's getting dressed, even when she's like figuring out what to wear, black or white, and she's it's just like that's so great. I'm love it. I could talk about the way they wear ties for the entire time, no collars, just tie.
Slit in their shirt.
I love that. I love the fact that Cyril was just like, I started here, and he's so intense with the guy. He's like, basically you can make it far in this position or whatever. I think like I love them showing the house. I think Dedra and Cyril are pretty locked in together. I don't think they're going to betray each other or anything. I think they're pretty locked in and connected as one. I think they have the same kind of path, and I think Cyril might be a little bit, kind of weirdly jealous of her, but also like we also kind of see that aspect of she is the commander because that is her personality, and she does that. I love when she shuts down his mom. I'm like, yeah, I want like a whole show just of these two people living in this room, like almost like I'm just like, this is
a King of Queens style comedy where Edie has to move in and they have to put up with her antics.
Oh my god, can you?
Call it Passive Aggression, a Star Wars story.
I would hate that because that is basically the movie and plotline with the same actress for the movie The Front Room, where she moves in with her stepson, and it's a dog shit movie. One of the last movies I worked on, and I
same actress, Dedra or Edie?
Edie. So bad. A24 thought it was a horror movie.
Because I don't know what she sounds like. I guess really looks like.
It's that
makeup. Is it okay?
It's also that.
But she's really chewing the scenery. She is very Disney villainy in that scene, and I really like.
She's a Broadway.
She's like reaching over for the fondue and dribbling all over the table, and Cyril's like, "Mom, you're dripping." I also feel like
it a lot. She's also, I think, so manipulative that she knows she's not like that in season 1, but she knows that Cyril and Dedra specifically with this house.
Well, she's trying to assert dominance over Dedra now. Yeah, she's 100% manipulating her, and then Dedra's just like, "No, I'm not going to take that. Like, listen, here's what's going to happen." Because what did she say? She's like, "I have a plan, but don't take the word plan to mean that this is something that is optional or something like that." And it was like, oh, yeah, she just dropped the hammer on her. It's like, no, this is what's going to happen now. The fact that they're in a relationship, I knew we were going to see them. I'm surprised that they're in a relationship, and I don't know what that means for the future, because this was a weird humanizing of both of these characters who I still claim are antagonists, but because they're in a relationship, they're not going to ride off into the sunset as Imperials, or they're both going to turn and be rebels. Like, it's not going to end out well for them. Like, one of them is going to die, or they're going to have a difference where, like you said, Luke, one of them maybe turns to the rebellion or something, or realizes that the Empire is evil. And I don't know which way it could go. It's not obvious to me. And
I don't, even if one of them doesn't turn to the rebellion, I think it's going to be Dedra, but I could also see it going the other way and it pulling the rug out from under my feet, which I guess, and it would be on par with what you guys are expecting. I think either Dedra or Cyril are going to be pretty on board with this genocide on Gore, and the other one is going to be just absolutely horrified that the other person is genociding someone. That's going to be the big rift that separates them.
I think Dedra's going to unfortunately get it. And because I think what we're seeing right now is Dedra's dominance, right? And how good she is for Cyril. She's being able to be like, hey, depending on your level of anxiety that you put in this household, is going to be dependent on how often you see him. He's going to call. He's going to see you twice a week. He's going to give you calls. I think she is really good for Cyril, and I think Cyril is going to see the moment and choose his job and career over her. And she, who you expect to choose her career, is going to choose him, and she's going to get fucked over for it. I mean, I think that's just the perfect opportunity, and I think that fits in right with Cyril's. You would expect there, because they are living so well together, and you're like, oh my god, like Dedra is kind of Edie in a different way, but like good for him. And so I think that is going to be heartbreaking if that's what happens.
I agree. As a betting man, I would bet that it's going to be Dedra's plan for the Gorman massacre will be successful, because she was the one who put it in Krennic, right? She was like kind of turned off by the whole idea of it, but then she basically admitted, like, no, if you really want to do this, the way you do it is you have this rebel uprising on Gorman and you use that as a pretext to subjugate the planet or whatever. And I think that's going to lead to the Gorman massacre, which we all know is going to happen. And I think Dedra is going to be so shook by it and knowing that she had a hand in that. And yeah, I think she's going to have this coming to rebellion moment, and I think it's going to be Cyril who doubles down and says like, no, this is good for us because F the rebellion and everything else. But I don't know. It could go any way, and that is maybe going to be one of my favorite parts of this season, is seeing how their relationship shakes out.
Not just a hand in it. Dedra is in charge of the Imperial occupation of Gore. Like, she is the head honcho on that. I agree. I can't wait to see what
Not
happens.
the head honcho. They had a task force. There was other people there. She was just in the head. She was heading it from the ISB's perspective, because they also had those two guys who gave the presentation who were working on the propaganda wing of it all as well.
The PR aspect of that was so fucking funny. The fact
that was dark at how realistic that was.
Yes. I was like, oh my God, I've been in so many meetings that basically are like that. And I would love to say they're not as ill-willed or disintentional, but they are. Like every single thing, they're like, how do we trick people?
Even Krennic, who is like one of the most evil Imperials, is like, all right, guys, all right, we get the picture.
I mean, I also was like, this has got to be the PR team with the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively scandal stuff going on.
But no, Dedra is in charge of it because she has that scene with Major Partagaz outside the ISB where she says she doesn't want the job, and he says, no, you're getting it, and it's going to appear as a demotion, and you're going to leave, and you have to play the part. But she's going to be leaving the ISB for all intents and purposes to go to Gore and be the head of this. She's not just a rank and file member of one of those 15 people in that boardroom. I think she is in charge now.
I think, Luke, that might be great if she has to leave then Cyril, and that's when they're going to have that difference, as we see how nice and tidy their life is. But if she's gone for a year and experiencing some shit while he's kind of in the same job and wanting to rank up, but she sees the inside, oh man.
Meanwhile, Dedra's not
Star-Crossed lovers,
his mother, and then his mother starts giving him shit about how his girlfriend's gone and doing better things.
Yep.
The idea of their relationship, because they're both such weirdos, you can't show any part of this relationship. Like when their relationship, quote unquote, started and they had that moment on Ferrix when he saves her, like everyone comes out of that scene being like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then every scene when they're in their apartment together, it's just like, this is weird. Like you can't show it as a traditional relationship. You just have to say that they're in a relationship like they did. It reminds me of Lord of the Rings, because I just watched the bonus features again, because I do that every couple years, because the Lord of the Rings behind the scenes are so amazing. But when Gimli gets a lock of Galadriel's hair, and they talk about how every other member of the Fellowship like got their gift, and Gimli just talks about it because they're like, well, practically, what are you gonna have Galadriel like pull out her hair and then give it to Gimli, and he's got these big gloves and it's just some hair, and so he's gonna like hold it up and you can't really see it, so it just practically doesn't work on film. So you have to just say this is what happened, and it still works. It works a lot better than it would because it's just weird. Like they can't be hugging. Like you can't hug each other. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, also a better example I'd say, Luke, is Anakin and Padme in this scenario where it's like, that's weird, right? And all of a sudden in Revenge you're like, all right, I get it.
That they just say now. They love each other.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, goddamn, that was my most intriguing scene, and then I think the second was with the comms lady, who I do not know her name. It's also, for the listener or viewer, my son's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Levi!
Dropped,
Yay, Levi!
1 year old. But so the day before is when the episodes came out, and so we were scrambling to plan stuff, and so I was watching these episodes and stuff like late at night, and then in between things. So my brain's a little scrambled. But the comms lady is when Andor finally arrives back and gets linked up with her, and she's like, "It's a little busy right now. Don't go home." That mixed in with the Dedra scene and Cyril scene was chef's kiss, beauty. And then you
like the editing of it.
Oh, just I mean, in general, the tension they're building. Go, Andor, go! Like, and then it's like that on top of then Mon starting to dance and stuff too. It's so good, and it's like, oh, the fact that she knows she's put her daughter into this position, and all of a sudden was like, you don't need to do this. it's like when push comes to shove, it's so good to see that moment. Oh my god, this show is so fucking good. I've been so excited to talk to you guys about it all day.
That's
I'm
another
just like, oh
that's
my
another
God,
example of Mon Mothma being the heart, where she starts to have this change of heart, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing to my baby girl?" And she's like, "Listen, you don't have to go through with this. You can walk away, and people would think that you're brave for doing it." And she
Yep.
prefaced all this by saying, like, "Oh, the day that I got married, my mom was drunk," and then Lydia just looks at her and she says,
Oh,
"I wish my mother was drunk." And it's like she tried to
heartbreaking.
save her at the very last minute, and she basically got her hand slapped away, and it's like, oh my
Yep.
gosh, it's so
And then that scene where she walks away and just goes back to tradition without saying anything and wipes a single tear away. It's like,
When
oh
she
my
when
god,
she says you're
it's
supposed to be
so-
behind me, she like
Yes, oh
completely
my
changes
God.
her tone. Yeah,
It's
I love
so
that. That's great
and
acting.
I think it's also just like, oh, my daughter is gone because of me, and now she is different, and she is adhering to this because I told her to, and now I'm backtracking in a weird moment where she's clearly acting out of character, and it's like, oh, it's so heartbreaking because basically Mon is giving up her normal life, right, for this, and now that she's like wants to kind of sink back into it, it's like, oh yeah, no, you're like your decisions are affecting other people, and I think that has got to be a hard pill to swallow. But like every aspect, and then oh my god, one last thing too about that scene, the doors. They have people opening the doors for them. They're not automatic. I love that. Did you notice that? Because
I
Yeah.
can't remember. No.
this place felt like a sanctuary of like yesteryear within the Star Wars universe. That felt like when you go to a spa and it's like no phones, no technology, and it's like the same thing where it's like everything feels very tactile and very different. Where it's like, no, like we are so rich, we don't even need automatic doors opening for us. We have people who open the doors for us. That was I love Chef's kiss on that moment too, where I was like, it just felt so different, and it felt so high class and important that you had people opening the doors for you within the Star Wars universe. I've never seen that. I loved it.
Also, cool lore thing, probably. None of us have played Knights of the Old Republic, but the gift that Luthen brings, he mentions the Rakatan invaders, which he did also in Season 1, and Knights of the Old Republic fans were real excited because they're a big element of that game. I wonder if this totem, the object that Luthen gifts to, or Davos Skulden gifts to the Lita and his son, whose name escapes me, I wonder if that's also like a substantial part of the game, and that'd be cool. I guess it'll just be kind of lame if it's not, but I bet it is.
I was wondering about
Yeah,
that
it
because
is,
they
it is.
gave a good amount of background regarding it, and I was like, I wonder if this is going to come into play later, or if this is just like a random lore dump. It makes sense that it was from Knights of the Old Republic, if that was just like a little nod to them or something.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the show, it would not be out of character for the show to just go way into detail about this thing, but they did go into more detail of just saying this is a very valuable artifact.
Right.
Like they could have done that tighter.
They went into the whole history of it. Like, oh, there was only 12. They were stolen 25,000 years ago. 8 of them are back now. This makes the 9th. And it was like, oh, I'm getting a lot of random information right now.
That's because they're setting up another animated show. You know, they're just gonna be like, oh, they mentioned the Clone Wars in New Hope, so we're just gonna do the same thing with the artifact.
I always imagine the people who have to update the Wikipedias on everything, who have to like pause this show every 10 seconds, like, fuck. All right, what did he say? How many were there?
Fucking hell.
Back to that line, I wish my mom were drunk. There were several lines that are not like massive plot points or big reveals or badass moments or something. It's just absolutely fantastic writing. That one is an example when the line Max already said, when Luthen says, that must be nice for you. It's just stellar writing. And also the third one that I'm thinking of, at least off the top of my head, I'm sure there's more, when Cassian is talking to the bad rebel, and he says, you've been out without food for 2 days, and he gets mad, and he's like, how'd you know it's 2 days? And he says, because you weren't here 3 days ago when I left. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, that's great writing. This is what I'm
Yes.
fucking talking about, Tony Gilroy.
And the fact that like Andor didn't bring that up right away, because he was like, oh, no matter what I say, it's not gonna matter. And then giving that to the audience to be like, oh my god, like we know as the audience, Andor is not the pilot that like they're making him out to be. But then the fact that like he drops that so much later, and he's like, it doesn't matter, these people are fucking idiots. He's gonna play the long game is so good. This show's amazing, and honestly,
Yes.
these might be my least 3 favorite episodes in all of Andor so far. out of the
What?
15
What did you
episodes.
just say?
These might be my least 3 favorite out of all of season 1 plus these. These might be my least favorite, and they're 10 out of 10 amazing.
Wow.
I'm
I
gonna.
have
I
no
mean, I
idea
gotta
how
go.
I'd pick.
That is not.
They
I
may
have
very
no
well be my
idea.
least favorite also, but just because they're all 10 out of 10, I don't. Yeah, I have no idea.
Exactly. But like, I don't know. I'm like, because again, I love these episodes so much, and I still think I was like, while watching it, I'm like, there's so much to go into, but I was like, man, I don't know. Like these rebels are annoying, and I love the subtext, but I was like, do I like the other ones better? Maybe. I don't know. But I want to rewatch it, obviously, when the whole show's over, to watch it in one go, all 24 episodes, and be like, this is the story they're trying to tell. Like we were saying in the beginning of this episode of, what the intention was. I'm very excited to see what it's like. But I mean, again, I could be vastly wrong. It's been a while since I watched Andor season 1.
I mean,
Well,
I definitely
the only
like
thing you
this
have to
arc better
remember-
than the first arc of season 1. But just because that one was mostly just setup, though, you were introducing all the characters still at that point.
The only thing you have to remember about Andor season 1 is that his sister was on Canary and he left. And that's gonna be something, and we have no idea what. It was still not mentioned at all in the first 3
I
episodes.
know.
We got 9 more, and I have every confidence that it'll come back, but I have just no clue what's gonna happen with that.
I thought that was gonna come into play at some point. The only thing I can think of potentially, if it doesn't fully come into play, is that he finds out who his sister was after he accidentally, or not accidentally, kills her or something. That's like the only thing I can really think of too. Is like, oh, we parted. We haven't seen each other forever. We parted ways. She ended up being someone in the Empire for some reason, whether it's because she was brainwashed, whether because that was her upbringing, and then I feel like he might accidentally kill her or something. And by accidentally, I mean kill her and not know who she is. But the audience might know, and that'd be heartbreaking.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting for the Clea reveal. That Clea, the whatever operator, the communications operator with Luthen, she could be his sister. That would be a pretty Star Wars thing to do in the last episode. Oh, by the way, it's her.
There is another.
Yeah, the Canary sister was notably absent, as was Saw Gerrera. All the
Yes.
Saw Gerrera fan was very disappointed.
You.
Me
I think that also
specifically.
makes sense for this arc. That'd be so weird if he was in here somewhere. I'm like, where
It
would
was.
he
I don't
fit in?
Go
I
to
don't
the wedding.
I don't wish that everything was the same, but he was also included. It wouldn't have made sense, but I don't know. I noticed
I agree.
that Saw Gerrera wasn't there.
I agree
No.
with
Where would you
Luke.
want him? Would you want him to be at dinner with Cyril, Dedra, and his mother, or at the wedding, or in the rebel forest where they don't know how to have any leaders?
The rebel
He's at
forest.
the
They don't have any
wedding.
leaders, and then
No.
his brother comes back. So they made a big deal about his brother, and then Saw Gerrera comes back, and he's just like, "I told you I would come back." And then you're like, "Oh, it was Saw the whole time," and that wouldn't make sense because we
No.
actually know Saw's family situation from Clone Wars, but something dumb.
We want him at the wedding, and it's all about the weird table that no one knows what to do with those
It's
people.
like,
and he's
who the
just
fuck
there.
is the cyborg guy.
Yeah, why is he breathing so fucking heavy? I can't hear the speech the dad's saying.
Oh,
Oh my God, also-
actually-
The fact that they have music boxes playing in the middle of the dance floor,
was
revolutionary.
awesome.
Why would
It
we not do that
flies.
shit in real life? There's so many things like that. I'm like, oh my God, is Tony Gilroy not only an amazing writer but also a great inventor?
Yeah, like frequently in Star Wars, I see something and I'm like, man, I wish, like, lightsaber. Like, oh, I wish I could have one of those. We do in our world have the technology to make a jukebox that flies into the middle of a party and right above. We
Yeah.
could
There's
do
on both
that.
sides.
I remember at my wedding, a couple people were like, yeah, we sat next to speakers, like really hard to hear anybody. Problem solved. No more complaints. Guess what? Also,
Yeah.
I don't give a single fuck about those people who just sat next to the speaker.
Yeah, you made the seating chart and you're like, oh, really? I didn't notice.
Yes. So, oh, and also, thank you for telling me, because guess what? I'm still thinking about it 8 years later, and I still don't care.
That is
Textbook not caring, thinking about it for 8 years.
I haven't thought about it until now, until I saw that speaker, and I was like, that would have solved that problem, Higgins.
So I distinctly remember reading Aftermath circa 2015 when
Hell yeah.
I found out that Mon Mothma was the first Chancellor of the New Republic. And for the longest time, I was always like, why Mon Mothma? That seems like such a weird choice. Like, isn't Leia the obvious candidate? And no, No, the show really does a good job of putting that into perspective for me and being like, nope, she deserves this. She earned this. This was a lot of her doing, and yeah, I'm thankful for it. That and the fact that Leia would have been like 22 years old at the time or something, just grossly unqualified.
Right. Yeah. Mon Mothma is doing a lot of work for the rebellion right now, while Leia is 15 years old. Like, she could still be helping, but you're not doing what Mon Mothma's doing.
No. You're not getting drunk at your daughter's wedding. You don't even have a daughter.
Let me look at my notes. Was there anything else that we need to talk about these first 3 episodes?
I mean, there's a million things, to be honest. I could go on and on. We've all, mostly me, monologued this entire time, and I don't even know where I could stop, to be honest, because I feel like I could go on, and I have not looked up reviews. I mean, besides like critic reviews who are like 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, like I've just been seeing that stuff out in the wild, but I've not seen what other people are talking about. I've had a couple friends watch and have seen the full show before, have seen season 2, and I think they both said that the first 3 episodes they thought they had pacing issues, and that it gets better. I'm very excited for it to get better because I've had no pacing issues, and so they had pacing issues
either. I thought it was totally fine, and I get like pacing issues. From my observation, was the only critique that people had of season 1, and that is like the vast minority. Like, I feel like Andor is so well beloved that anyone who does critique the pacing issues, people are just like, yeah, but like, you're wrong, right? Like, everyone loves Andor. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about this. Like, if someone complains about the pacing, I'm just like, that's fine. I don't care. Like, I don't feel a need to have to defend this show. It defends itself. But we'll leave on a note of Luthen, because he was definitely my favorite character, I think, from the first arc. Him and Mon. I'm so glad that they were so closely related in this story too. But the dude never stops working. I mean, the part where he was talking to that Imperial, the naval officer, and he was like, "Oh, we're about to be deployed," and he was like, "Oh, where are you guys heading?" I was like, this dude doesn't quit. He's like, he's always taking notes. And then he meets another guy who just happens to be Gorman, and I was like, well, that's probably going to be relevant in a couple episodes.
That's every single scene in this show is like that. That's why I'm like, I don't even know what to say right now, because we could go in depth with all of that shit. Because I 1000% have the same exact thought to be like, oh my god, like Luthen's a fucking badass, and this is why he's so powerful, is because he just doesn't stop, and he's going to die because of this.
I wouldn't call it shifting allegiances, because like I obviously support the rebellion overall, but the show does such a good job of like Cyril in a way, but more like Dedra, for me at least this season. Like, I all of a sudden now like Dedra, and she was such a vicious character last season, and now I'm like, kind of rooting for you a little bit now. You don't want to do the Gorman Project because you're not that on board with mass genocide, which really low bar for likability, but yeah, good for you. And like that scene when he's like, oh really, where are you going? I'm like, oh my god, don't tell him, dude. And I'm like, well, no, I am on Luthen's side, but like, it's so well written.
Just watch it. I think, like I said, I think Dedra, that actress, is enthralling to look at. I don't know what it is, but she, with the acting choices she has, I think this character is perfect. And I'm just like entranced every single time she's on screen. And I'm like, I just am so on board with. In season 1 was great. Then now in season 2, I'm like, now, like you said, I am now actually a fan of Dedra versus just being a fan of the actress.
Yeah, when she does that smile when she's thinking about getting ready, like, that's very noticeably the first time we see that character smile, and I'm like, no, don't do it anymore.
I feel weird about it.
The problem with the problem with the show this well written is that they use subtext so well, which means that nothing they say is what they're actually saying. So I'm watching this by myself, alone in my basement, and I'm still like pausing it and going back 10, 20, 30 seconds. I'm like, wait a minute, what did they just say there? And
yes,
I don't know. Yeah.
This is a show that I wish we watched together, because there's so much going on that I forget what it was. Maybe it was Skeleton Crew, that we're like, oh, we each have a piece of the puzzle because we all are noticing different things. There was nothing to notice in comparison to this show. Where like Skeleton Crew was just a fun time, and this is like, wait, what did they say? There's so many times I had to go back. I was like, okay, I gotta mark this time code, so I go back to re-listen to what they're even talking about here. So I really hone in on it and figure it out.
Yeah. Well,
this was great.
Obviously, I'm thinking about Cyril Karn, and there will come a time when he meets Cassian again, and he is going to just absolutely lose it. That is going to be the single best scene in all of Star Wars. I cannot wait for that.
well, we will
That is
wait
so
with
funny. That you
bated
think that's
breath.
going to be the best, best scene in Star Wars. That's so insane, Luke.
All right. Well, does anyone have any force for thought to lead us out with?
Yeah, I do. I was watching Attack of the Clones, and there's that scene where Yoda and Mace Windu are like meditating, and Yoda says Mace Windu suggests that perhaps it's time to inform the Senate that their ability to use the Force is diminished. To which Yoda says, only the Dark Lord of the Sith knows of our weakness. If told about it, multiply our adversaries will. Which we can discuss that more at a later time, because that is a huge implication that their ability to use the Force is being diminished. Like, we've never talked about that on this podcast, at least, and Star Wars never really talks about it in universe, I don't think. But that's not my force for thought. My force for thought is earlier then, when they're in Palpatine's office with Kit Fisto in the background, and
This seems right.
Important detail.
Palpatine says, Master Yoda, do you really think it will come to war? And Yoda just kind of grunts and says, impossible to see the future is. The dark side clouds everything. If Palpatine is the Dark Lord, which we know he is, and he knows of their weakness, is he just trolling Yoda in this scene? Because he knows he doesn't have the answer, and so he asks it anyway?
Yeah,
because
100%.
Yoda can't admit.
He's playing
That's
both
hilarious.
sides. He knows he's leading this into a war no matter what. He's 100% trolling them. I thought you were about to ask if it was a physical proximity thing, like they use the Force less around Palpatine because he's obstructing their vision or something. But surely that's
No,
nonsense.
I don't.
That would be silly.
I don't think that. But just like, yeah, he's just trolling them. Like, Yoda, try to use the Force right now. You can, but you can't admit it, and I can't admit that I know that. But
That's pretty
what,
funny.
what a
Luke. I never
layer.
thought about that.
Yeah, Palpatine,
Well,
meme lord.
Just
All right.
honestly, he might have won the war if he just did less shit like that. He could have been much more productive. Like, you know what I'm gonna do today? Fuck around with Yoda. fuck around with the little green guy. No one even knows his species. Fuck
To
that
be
guy.
fair, he did win the war. It was a pretty resounding victory for the Empire.
That's okay. That's a good point. They did win. It didn't last though.
Let's go back. One last thing about Andor. It has to do with Palpatine because I literally laughed out loud when they were talking about the whole reason they want to go to Gorman was because they have this mineral and the Empire needs a sustainable, unlimited power. And I was like, oh,
Yep.
Palpatine's looking for unlimited power, huh?
Yeah,
I've heard that
was
before.
a little too on the nose almost. That was the one
I
scene
thought
that
so too. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's the most fan service Tony Gilroy's gonna give. And I feel like he was probably like, I hate this.
I do not want to do this.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
saw that in the Reddit discussion after. I did not notice that line when I was watching
Really?
it.
Oh my gosh.
No. It's so obvious. I can't believe I didn't. But I was like watching it and I was like, oh, unlimited power. That would be a really good benefit to the Empire politically and economically. Okay, go on, Krennic.
That's hilarious, Luke.
But anyway, let us know. Let us know what you think of Andor Season 2, Episodes 1 through 3. Make sure you like and follow, and you can listen to us talk about the next couple episodes as well, I guess. You can
Drop
follow
some
us-
justice for Kellen in the comments that he is
We'll
not
revisit it. We'll revisit
turning
it.
over
Don't worry.
Brasso.
I
Insane.
don't want to get too much shit for that because I'm also a fence sitter on this now. I don't know what to think. So anyway, if you do want to give a shit, you can do it across social media at Force for Thought, or you can email us at forceforthought@gmail.com.
See you, Sammy.